Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this webinar on Revolutionizing IT Service Management, AI-powered transformations, and welcome to this session. We're talking about revolutionizing IT service management, so how AI can help you in your organization within your IT service management. I'm David Pickering, I'm a Product Marketing Director for Ivanti, located out of Melbourne, and I'm going to walk you through what we offer from an AI in the IT service management, and also look at a demonstration of the solution so that you've got a better idea on what we're doing. So when we did a survey last year, we actually asked some of our survey interviewers and asked some questions around what are they doing with AI and service management. And this is within our Democratizing IT data research report. And we found that 40% of organizations use AI to help them with ticket resolution. We also found that 31% use AI for intelligent escalation, and another 35% are using AI to assist with their knowledge management. And then from a self-service side of things, there are 38% of our people using AI for helping with self-service. So this is a good indication that there is a lot of people out there using AI, but there's also a lot of hype about AI. What can you really do with it? What's available? And I think we're starting to go through a little bit of, yeah, we're hearing AI, but we're not quite sure whether we're ready for it or we're a bit disillusioned by it. So what I want you to get from this session is, firstly, what do we do? And secondly, get some confidence that we do have a solution that's capable of providing you some capabilities within in ITSM. And we have a vision. So our AI TSM vision is to leverage AI and machine learning in a responsible, secure, and trusted way. And they're very relevant for what we talk about. But it's relevant to ITSM and enterprise service management use cases, and weaving in human intelligence and technology together. Now, when we talk about responsible, secure, and trusted, we really want to make sure that the AI that you use is not going out into the wilds of the internet. We're only using data within your ITSM environment. We're only going to use your data to give you responses for AI. We don't want to go out to the Wild West and just go and look at the internet and bring back results. That's not the concept behind what we do. We're making sure it is very responsible. We want it to be secure, and we want you to use trusted results. And by trusted, your own data. But let's have a look at what an AI use case could look like. So let's say an end user has an issue of some sort. They go and search the knowledge base and look for information around how they could resolve this. Maybe they can't resolve the issue. So they create an incident. When they create that incident, we know what they've just looked at from a user's knowledge search. So we add that to the incident, and we call that ticket summarization. And the reason we do that is when it gets to the service desk analyst, they already know what the end user has been looking at, what they've tried to answer their own issue. Now, when we go through that process, we also then classify the incident. So our incident classification uses machine learning, will automatically classify the incident so it goes to the right team and the right people to go and look at this incident. We don't want them to be looking at it and not have to go through some manual process to define who it goes to. Now, once it's been classified, then the analyst can start to look at that. Now, the analyst might say, look, there's a lot of information here. I could go through the notes in a traditional way, but it would take me a long time to do it. So what they do is they run an incident summarization. That incident summarization uses generative AI and gives them back a whole lot of notes on what is this incident about. Now, it may be that it's been logged with a lot of data, or it might be someone's come in 3 or 4 weeks later and is wanting to understand what happened. That incident summarization speeds up the time it takes to actually understand what the incident is occurring. And then once we've resolved the incident, we then go through the ability to have knowledge generation. So the incident gets resolved, we use generative AI to create a draft knowledge article, and then it can go through the standard of processes that you might have for knowledge management, which might be a review, approve, and publish that article to the end users and analysts. And then that becomes available to your end users again, who can then have a better knowledge base to be able to resolve their own incidents early on. And the concept here is when we go through that ticket summarization, incident classification, and summarization is to reduce that mean time to repair. How do we get it fixed quicker? And then generating knowledge and putting that out to the end users, the idea here is to increase that user experience. So the AI is a whole circle. It's about improving both sides of your organization. The analysts get a better mean time to repair, the users get a better experience. And then we can also look at a sentiment analysis use case. How often do you get surveys? The surveys will come out, they'll have typically a yes, no, or a star rating, and then they might have some free text in that survey. And then working out what's in that free text on a regular basis, particularly if you start getting lots of surveys, is hard to do. But running that through generative AI can summarize all those survey free text results to highlight keywords and sentiment that you get within those text responses. So then not only is the survey giving you the results of yes, no ratings and star ratings, it's giving you also how they feel about that information. So how can AI help you in your organization? And let's get into that. First, we can reduce the service desk workload. So clearly see what the end user has tried and looked at. And if you are coming into a record halfway through, quickly understand the issue. Simplify that knowledge article creation and provide intelligent automation behind the scenes. We can also enhance the self-service experience through natural language virtual agents to enable your end users to be able to find answers and interact. Identify any issues you might have as an end user and provide a great knowledge base so that they can shift left. You can get your users to start to do more of their own fixing. You can gain faster insights by looking at that incident summarization, looking at information, or creating dashboards against important data quickly using natural language processing and generative AI dashboard creation. Using other capabilities to predict and prevent IT issues. So using neurons healing to detect issues, identify and rectify those issues before the user even knows, whether that be device, application, security, performance degradation. Reducing that mean time to repair so you can identify and rectify issues before the user without intervention. Having those healing bots running and understanding, I've identified a problem, the user didn't know they had it, but I've now provided that to you. And provide self-healing automation to speed up your resolutions. And then finally, understand that employee sentiment. What is the user actually feeling at this point? Often you look at sentiment from the point of view, maybe they're unhappy because it takes a long time for that incident to get resolved. But there may be other things that they actually tell you within a survey that you can understand. And then that improves your digital experience, whether that's across its person, device, service management, security, or the applications. So I've talked a bit about what we offer, but now let's go and have a look at that. So we're going to run a demonstration to show you what do we actually offer from a service management side of things. So we're going to go through a demonstration now that's going to look at virtual agents, self-healing, classification and summary, and our generative AI capabilities. So we're going to start looking at this from proactive service management, and it's the ability to be able to identify and rectify issues before the user is even aware of them. So in this particular scenario, let's say you're just working away on your laptop, your normal day-to-day workload, and then you get a message within Microsoft Teams that says you have an issue. So here we have our proactive IT support team have come out and identified that my print spooler is not working. Now, I haven't tried to print anything, so I'm not aware of that. Would they like me to restart the printer for them? And I'm going to say yes, I'd love that to be fixed. Now, what happens is it will go through the process of checking again to make sure it's not working, restarting it, and making sure it's active. And then we'll get a response from the proactive IT support bot to say, we want you to go and check to see if your printer is working now. I'll go off and do my print. It might have worked, it might have failed. Now, if I put print failed, it will go and create an incident for me within ITSM, and then we can have someone work with that from the service desk. If I say the print worked, then I can go and potentially just close off this particular proactive service management bot, or I could go for reporting purposes, go and create an incident as resolved so that we're aware of what we've actually worked against. And that's proactive service management from the point of view of how that works within our organization. And these Neurons bots are the main driver behind that. So I've looked at proactive service management and the ability to identify a problem before the user is aware of them. But what about the scenario where they have identified a problem and we want to do a little bit more about shift left, get the user to be able to resolve the problem in their own right. So in this scenario, we've got the self-service portal, which is a traditional way a user would come in to try and log an issue. They could search the knowledge base, but in this case, they've already identified the printer's not working. So they go in and want to log an incident. My printer is not working. And then to help the user be able to fix this in their own right, we come back automatically with a list of potential knowledge articles that might help them. So I can come through here, maybe it's something to do with how do I reboot or restart my network printer, and I can have the different steps there. I could resolve that in my own right. Or what else do we have? How to add a network printer or a local printer. And again, we could put that and go through that process. And if we're unable to resolve that in our own right, we can then move to the next stage of this particular process, which would be to get what's happening with my printer and why is it not working. So that's one way we can actually interact through the self-service portal. So our other approach is to go out to our virtual agent and use natural language processing to look at the virtual agent. So we can click on the virtual agent and that will bring up our capability to log into our virtual agent. So here we are, we've connected into the virtual agent, and I just want to put in there, I'm unable to print, and we'll go and see what the virtual agent can do for me. Now the virtual agent's much more interactive, so it wants to try and resolve this for you. So I'm going to say the printer's not connecting, and we'll see what our virtual agent can come back with from our point of view of how do I answer this particular question. Now the virtual agent's, as I talked about, much more interactive. What device do I have? I have Windows 11, so it's asked me about that. It's confirming that the problem is the printer is not connecting. And we now go through to our knowledge base to see what we have that might be able to help resolve this issue. And see a knowledge article that might be useful. We can copy that link and we can then interact again, continuing on that by telling the virtual agent we're not connecting. And then we can go through different steps. So this guides the user much more through the problem. And in the end, we can log an incident with the service desk to have that rectified as well. So now let's say that the incident has been logged with the service desk, so the printer's not working. So here we have our printer not working. I cannot print. We can see that our machine learning capabilities, which is our ticket classification, has automatically classified this as a printer failure. And the one other thing that we have is automatically we come back with options of how we can fix this issue. So in this particular case, we're saying we can run a routine that's called an automation routine that is called check print spooler. So that will enable me to go and run that against the device that we would link to that particular issue. So I'm just going to link my device that's working for me, and I could go and execute that automatically against that device. So let's go and look at what would happen at the user's device to see how that works. Now, I've said save and execute from the incident. So what will happen is that will initiate our Neurons healing bot, and in a similar way to what we did with proactive service management, we'll have a Microsoft Teams conversation with the user to try and resolve this. And this is different to actually physically going a remote desktop connection into that user. So this could happen behind the scenes without any interaction. But in this scenario, we're interacting with the user. Want to fix the printer issues? Are you happy? Yes, we'll proceed with that. And again, it will go through the same process. Is it running? Is it not running? How do we resolve this particular issue? And maybe there's something else happening within that. So in a similar fashion that we had before, we're going to resolve this and automatically execute against that. So we can start to simplify and reduce the mean time to repair for the user. We've got some incidents here. Let's have a look at this one, which is the antivirus. It's not updating on my laptop. I'm going to drill into that particular incident, and we can see that there has been quite a bit of activity history through this. So normally what you'd be doing in catching up on understanding an incident is you'd be going through these different notes and trying to understand, well, what's happened, where are we at, what's going on. Now what we do is just click on this summarize incident, and what it's going to do is look at all the information that there is and come back with a short summary of where we're at with this particular incident. Now we can see we've got our summary, which talks about what the laptop is, what the issue is, what the incident ID is, and then we've got our summary. We talk about what's happened, when did it start, what we went through to get this resolved, and then when it did reoccur, which has reoccurred later, what have we done, how do we stop this from working again. And then here we've got all the different notes that we use as our data source. This is all the information we have to summarize our incident. And we can do that against any of our incidents. So we've looked at that one. And then what we'll do is we'll go and have a look at this. Laptop is always running very hot. And again, we can do the same thing, summarize that incident and get that quick update of where we are within the whole incident process. Right, and as we can see, we've got our summary information. Again, what did we do? How did we resolve this? What did we need to get to? And what we use as our information. Now, if we go and put this into a resolve state, we then have the ability to generate a knowledge article. Now, traditionally, you'd go through and you'd be looking at your resolution notes and what you had to do. Now, we can just say, I want to generate a knowledge article, issue and resolution, and it will go and build that draft version of the knowledge article for us. And here we have that. We have our title, keywords that might be relevant to that. We can then put it against what particular category do we want that to go for. What the description was, so what was causing this, and what the resolution was. And then we can save that as a draft and we can go and edit that. And that's our generative AI knowledge creation. Let's have a look at our generative AI capabilities within our dashboards. What we're able to do is either via the predefined prompts, which we have here, or our own prompt, we can generate a dashboard widget without having to go into the dashboard editor. Let's see what we can get from the show all incident records group by status predefined prompt. Now that's returned our dashboard widget, which is as we requested it. And we can adjust that. We can change that to a pie chart. We can toggle the legends. We can maximize it, or we can export that image. So that's using our predefined prompts. But we can also type in our own prompt. And let's do show all problems grouped by status. And now we have that particular widget created for us. Again, we can change the types and the styles, and we can go and add that to a dashboard or go and create a new dashboard. And that's our generative AI capabilities against our dashboards. What we're going to look at now is sentiment analysis within the Ivanti Neurons survey bot. So the Ivanti Neurons survey bot will send a survey to a user or a group of devices, and they'll respond to the question answers. And the typical scenario would be here where they ask questions around how's the battery life? Have you had issues with it? What responses might you have in there? Hardware performance? What do you think might be needed for that? How's the overall support and maintenance? So all of these will get captured, and then we'll analyze that information when we look at the final results. So when we look at our survey results, we can see when the surveys were taken, what the responses were like. But more importantly, we start to summarize and use AI to give us a view of what the responses were. So those text responses that typically you wouldn't be able to capture without reading through it. And we can see here people frustrated about long startup and shutdown times, as well as running Microsoft Teams. Common theme seems to be about RAM and CPU. And the sentiment was moderate and balanced. Now that's the overall view of all the questions. But we can also then drill into the specific questions and look at what were the responses within there. And then we can start to look at, have you experienced noticeable delays or performance issues? You can start to summarize and use this information to get a view of, how am I going? What's the core issues that are occurring? What are the survey respondents actually giving us information-wise? And that will be against any of the questions that have been entered. We can start to summarize those questions and start to get a view of what is causing the big issue. And that's the utilization of our AI capabilities within sentiment analysis for the Ivanti Neurons survey. And just to summarize that, summarize what we have within Ivanti Neurons for ITSM from an AI. So incident summarization, it's about providing you the capability to summarize that issue, speed up your resolution by providing your teams with the right information quickly. Knowledge generation, generate more knowledge articles that have more better information, reduce the time it takes for the support team to go and produce those knowledge articles, and enable that to have more for service desk agents and your end users. Provide ticket summarization to allow to capture what end users have already looked at, so that when they're looking at an incident, they already know what the end user's been looking at from knowledge articles. Generate dashboards much quicker using natural language input through our Neurons AI. Having a virtual agent that can deliver those employee experiences with AI-powered virtual capabilities to increase that employee productivity. Automatically classify incidents by reducing that manual effort to classify them and speeding up the time it takes to assign the issues. Generate digital employee experience and understand that experience through sentiment analysis, so you understand what the employee is going through. Run self-healing so you can troubleshoot and rectify issues before users are even aware. And something that we've had for a while, but we've rebuilt it completely, and we'll talk about that, is incident correlation. So that's coming in the 2025.2 release, which is due to be available in April. And what does that provide you? So the real-time incident correlation identifies those commonalities between incidents to determine if they are related or part of a larger issue. So what you'll see on that screen is you'll start to see how many incidents do I have, but you'll look at the master incident. So what have we identified as something that's the primary one, or you can classify it as the primary one, and what else is all related to that particular incident. So the ability to bulk relate all those incidents and automatically do it, so you're identifying them and to provide potential for major incidents, so you can turn that into a major incident. The idea here is to improve your incident response time, so you actually get all that information very quickly. You're not working on, let's say, 10 incidents all in the same way. You actually work on one and resolve that. Reduce that duration of service disruption and improve the employee communication, and enhance your security by detecting and responding to any security issues you may have along the way. Now, as part of that, what are we looking at from an AI side of things? Well, we want to look at AI from the point of view of elevating the user experience. So personalize and optimize the user interactions using AI-driven enhancements. Provide you with an efficient AI assistant. So look at an AI co-pilot type functionality to assist and enhance building out ITSM capabilities. So whether it's generating an expression as you're building out a quick action, generate that in natural language and we'll generate anything that needs to be built behind the scenes. Improve automation, so drive efficiencies, and be able to do globalization automatically. So if you have someone who's put it in Japanese, it will automatically appear in English if that's your language, and vice versa. So empowering the self-service, develop more solutions around self-service that help ensure they're scalable, make sure that we can start to leverage some predictive analytics, and also drive that across enterprise service management. So deliver AI from more than just IT, but deliver it across HR, facilities, GRC, and all the others. And I want to refocus back on this particular terminology that we like to use, which is responsible, secure, and trusted AI. So we only look at AI, the generative AI, or any of the AI that we have only looks at your data within your ITSM instance. We don't go outside those environments. We don't go out to the internet and go and search for extra information. We're only looking at data that you have within your environment, so that you know, firstly, it's trusted data. It's what you have available to you. And it's secure data, and it's responsible data, because we haven't gone and got something from a source that we don't want to get data from. We do have the Ivanti Live session coming up in Melbourne. It's on the 21st of May, and it will be followed by a ITSM, or an enterprise service management user group, on the 22nd of May in the same location. So if you would like to turn up, meet your fellow Ivanti people, meet more of the Ivanti staff, understand the roadmap and the directions we're going, get some great technical sessions, then please jump online and register for this event. It'll be a great event. To thank you all for joining me today. I hope you gained some valuable insight into what we offer from an AI capabilities within the ITSM solution. There will be a roadmap discussion during the Ivanti Live in Melbourne, so hopefully that might be a plug there to sort of understand a bit more about where we're thinking we're going to go with our AI capabilities and discuss a whole lot of other information there at that venue. So thank you for joining us.